get started here. Our first inductee tonight is Pete Fitchuk. I'm going to share with you part of the story that I read on the Hockey Hub site that ranked Peter the 36th best player in the top 100 in the history of Minnesota hockey. This comes from that article. It all happened so fast. Peter Fitchuk can't say for sure how he ended up sprawled on the ice with blood spilling out of his mouth. There was a backhand shot by an opponent and a follow-through that brought the stick high in the air. The stick's blade connected with Fitchuk's jaw. That much is certain. The blow was hard enough to send one of Fitchuk's teeth flying to the ice. Another tooth was missing, but couldn't be found. A woozy Fitchuk was helped off the rink. He would not return. International Falls was playing Richfield in the semifinals of the 1964 state tournament, and now, without their star center, the Broncos were in disarray. We really struggled because when he left, we didn't know who our center was, Tony Curran later said, dating back to the years of youth hockey that he had played right wing alongside Fitchuk and left wing Keith Boleyn. We were all trying to figure out what was going on. The Broncos managed to beat the Spartans 3-2, setting up a championship game rematch with St. Paul Johnson. The Governors had defeated International Falls 4-3 in overtime to win the 1963 state title. We weren't even sure whether Pete was going to be play or not, said Curran, adding that the early editions in the Twin Cities had said that St. Paul Johnson had won the title. Banged up and still in intense pain from the night before, Fitchuk showed up at the St. Paul Auditorium and declared himself fit to play. And sure enough, he was. St. Paul Johnson's Greg Hughes and Fitchuk each scored twice in the first period, which ended in a 2-2 tie. A skilled and scrappy 5'9", 160-pound junior, Fitchuk assisted on the Broncos' first 2 goals of the second period, and International Falls led 5-2 heading into the third en route to a 7-3 victory. I was angry, Fitchuk said in an attempt to explain his inspired play. I was mad because Johnson had beat us for the championship when I was a sophomore. Only after Fitchuk returned home to International Falls did he discover that the second missing tooth wasn't missing after all. It had been shoved deep into his gums. Peter was a real tough kid, said former Broncos forward Buzzy Christensen. He proved that when he got his teeth bashed in. There wasn't anybody who could match up to him in terms of toughness. Here's what is written on Peter Fitchuk's plaque. Peter Fitchuk was born April 8, 1947 in Fort Francis, Ontario. Fitchuk was a member of the Bronco high school hockey team during his high school career, playing in 3 Minnesota State hockey tournaments. As a sophomore, Peter and the Broncos lost to St. Paul Johnson in the 1963 state championship game in overtime. As a junior, Fitchuk and the Broncos avenged that loss to St. Paul Johnson by beating them in the state championship game in 1964. The Broncos, with Fitchuk as their co-captain, became repeat state champions in 1965. Peter was named to the all-tournament team at the 1964 and 65 state tournaments. After high school, Peter received a scholarship from the University of Minnesota to play hockey. Fitchuk lettered for the Gophers 3 times. In his senior season, Peter tied for second in scoring in the Western Collegiate Hockey Association with 21 goals and 24 assists, and was drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks in 1969. Fitchuk was drafted by the United States Army at approximately the same time and had to serve his enlistment. Prior to reporting for basic training, Peter played for the Flint Generals of the International Hockey League and the Johnstown Jets of the Eastern Hockey League. After completing basic training, Fitchuk was invited to try out for the United States national team, and he played the 70-71 season with the team along with former Bronco Lefty Curran, Tim Sheehy, and Huffer Christensen. Unfortunately, a shoulder injury sidelined Peter in an early game with the 1972 Olympic team and ended his playing career. Peter gave back to hockey by coaching bantam and midget hockey in Minnetonka for many years. Fitchuk was ranked 36th in the Minnesota Hockey Hub's top 100 greatest high school hockey players in 2011. At the time of his induction, Peter and his wife Lynn are retired and residing in their home built on Rainy Lake. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Fitchuk.
Okay, testing. Can you hear me in the back? Thank you. First, I want to thank the committee for my selection. Thank you. I also want to thank my sister, mother, and wife for attending this ceremony for this special honor. Also to my teammates and special friends attending. Now I'm going to take you on a condensed journey playing hockey from past to present. Let's start at this rink. This is the 11th Street rink warming house, not changed in over 60 years. Notice the two doors, one for boys, one for girls. This is where I learned to play hockey. Okay, here are some of the earlier teams I played on, as did some of you. These are some of my high school teammates: Brian Glennie, Larry Roach, Tony Kern, myself, and Les Eklund. This is about 1957. This goes back a year, 1956. Again, some of my high school teammates: Ron Beck, myself, Pete Cronkite, and Tom Nagurski. Again, high school teammates. We did grow a little bit. This is Ron Beck, Buzzy Christensen, Brian Glennie, myself, Marshall Sather, and Tony Kern. Okay, this is the locker room, Fort Francis Ice Arena. I remember a lot of Coach Ross's pep talks and having hot tea and oranges between periods. This is the ramp from the locker room to the ice rink. On our team, Gary Wood had to be the first out of the locker room to slap the puck the length of the ice. Normally the goalie is the first on the ice with the puck. Looks like the same rink today, Fort Francis Arena. Remember how ice was made between periods using the barrel system for flooding, powered by what we called the rink rats, who were also good hockey players getting extra ice time. This is the '63 state tournament program. Here's a team picture from the 1963 runner-up team to St. Paul Johnson. Last year, Jim Amidon and I had a great conversation about this very tough loss in 2 overtimes. I believe this loss gave us the drive for other state titles. This is the '64 state champion team. Larry Ross said this is one of the most gratifying titles in a Sid Hartman article. Also in this paper, Tony Kern quote, "We make up our minds to beat them, and we came through." I got beat up pretty bad, but we beat St. Paul Johnson for the state title. I ended my career playing with Shattuck, Krupe, and Hughes, the top line from St. Paul Johnson at the university.
On camera. You're gonna be like right in front of 50 seconds.
This is a happy bunch of players. Larry Roach dubbed our line the Cotton Rockets. I think we had a great line, and thanks Tony and Keith for all the great games. Here is a 65 state tournament winning team. "48 years later, when this team was inducted into the Bronco Hall in 2013, we're older but still having fun." This is my letterman's coat that all of us were so proud to have, and my wife is wearing the jacket tonight. This is Keith Boland and I receiving a scholarship to the University of Minnesota. This is my 1969 Gopher hockey team when I was a senior. After I finished playing my senior year, I was invited to practice with the Chicago Blackhawks. My highlight was skating with Bobby Hall, Stan Mikita, and Pat Stapleton, to mention a few. I never got in a game, but enjoyed a week with the team during spring break. I think I did okay because they invited me to training camp that fall in 1970. Just a footnote, Uncle Sam also invited me to his training camp. After basic training, I played on the U.S. national team. I played with 3 other players from the Falls, Tim Sheehy, Huffer Christensen, and Lefty Kern, who are all in the Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame. I got to play one game at wing with Huffer. Guess what? I got a hat trick. Our home base was the North Stars rink. Lefty, Tim, and Huffer, thanks for the memories. Hockey has left me with some outstanding friendships and have lasted a lifetime. This was my journey. In closing, I would like to mention in memory of people I played high school with: Larry Ross, Gary Wood, Marshall Sether, Keith Boland, Mike Peterson. Godspeed. Last, I want to honor the players I played with for their military service: Jim Amidon, Tony Kern, Gary Wood, Buzzy Christensen, Bob Patno, Tim Sheehy, Kip Narble, Dan Bale, Rennie Calder, and all others in this room that served. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Pete. Our next inductee tonight is Jim Glowak. I guess I'll say let the plagiarism continue for Tim, because in case you aren't aware, Phil Johnson, a member of the 54 and 55 hockey teams, he wrote stories about those 2 seasons and did a fabulous job, and I'd like to share a little bit about Jim from that article. Jim Glowak, our quarterback and captain, had complete authority. There was never a doubt that he was in charge. In our 6th and 7th grade years, I did not think of Jim as an athlete in the way I thought of the Crotty Boys, Bronco Jr., or Bob Lorien. Now here he was in his 2nd year as starting quarterback, and he proved himself every play. He never quit driving. His passes were accurate, and he mixed his plays well. My one complaint was that he never threw the ball to the ends. Jim was so confident of his passing connections with Joe and Jim Crotty and with Choo Choo Damish that he never looked for Doyle Harchie or me. One game he sent us deep. The defenders ignored us. Doyle and I stood in the end zone with nobody near us and watched Jim throw up the middle into heavy traffic to Joe Crotty. Wouldn't you know, Joe made a great catch for another completion. Frustrated as we were, we could hardly blame Jim and could understand his confidence in those great receivers. Here's what is written on Gumball's plaque. Sorry, Jim. Jim Glowacz was born May 20th, 1937 in International Falls. Jim was a member of the Bronco football team from 1951 to 54, lettering 3 times. Glowacz was the starting quarterback for 14 games during his junior and senior seasons and never lost a game. Jim was the captain of the 1954 team that won the state championship, and he was named to the All-Iron Range Conference team as the quarterback. Glowacz was the starter for the North team in the 1955 Minnesota North-South All-Star High School game. Jim also lettered twice in hockey for the Broncos and was a member of the 1955 Bronco baseball team that qualified for the state tournament. After high school, Glowacz attended the University of Minnesota on a football scholarship. After 2 years, Jim left school and enlisted in the Marines. After the 2 years in the Marines, Jim returned to International Falls and coached recreation football before enrolling in St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota. In the fall of 1960, Glowacz was the starting quarterback on offense and safety on defense for the Johnnies and was named second team All-MIAC. In 1961, he was named captain of the team and again started on both sides of the ball. This time, Jim was named first team All-MIAC and was chosen most valuable player of the conference. After graduating from St. John's, Glowacz gave back to the game of football by coaching Pop Warner in the Chicago area in the early 60s, and once again recreation football in his hometown in the late 70s and early 80s. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Glowacz.
Well, I want to thank Tim. First of all, this morning when we had the interview for the radio station, he reminded me that I'm the oldest guy here. I felt pretty proud of myself because I figured out, I thought I was going to be the oldest guy, and I started figuring the 62 team. Figured out. I graduated in 55. They're the 62 team. They're 7 years old, younger than I am. Well, hell, they're in their 70s. Here I am. I'm 80. I'll admit it. But they're not that far behind me. So, again, and how do I follow and act like Pete? This morning again, I always thought Pete was a goalie. Why? I don't know. But I used to listen to the games. I didn't really live here then. I was in the Chicago area and that. I used to listen to the games. And I always heard pitcher doing this. And I thought he was the goalie, kicking the puck out and stuff. Here he was putting them in the net. So, well, how do you follow acts like this? I don't know. And Tim wrote my speech for me, really, so I'm going to just put this away and sit down. But I'm going to just give it anyway. Excuse me if it repeats, because it will. First of all, I would like to thank Charlie Anderson for nominating me for membership into the Bronco Hall of Fame. The committee members for choosing me as a member of the 6th class of the Hall. I consider this a great honor and privilege that I will cherish forever. I am very humbled and honored to join my fellow teammates, coaches, acquaintances, and all the illustrious Hall members. I'd like to congratulate Pete, Charlie, Coach Ostrud, and the 62 hockey football team on their selection to the Hall. I think it's only proper that I take a few minutes to thank some very special people that have made this night possible. My parents, Ben and Lois Glowacz, for all the sacrifices they made to provide me with all the best equipment available to pursue my athletic activities, and for their support and encouragement. And and I know they are here with us tonight. My brother Tom, who spent countless hours chasing footballs, baseballs, and pucks so that he'd be ready to compete when his time came. Tom played baseball, hockey, and football, and was a member of the 55 team that was inducted in the Hall last year. And his favorite thing is always saying that he played two very important positions for Coach Larson. He played center and guard. He sat in the center of the bench and guarded the water bucket. Thanks, bro, for all your help and encouragement. I couldn't resist. And you, the Bronco fans, who supported us and gave us all the opportunity to compete, you made all this possible. Thank you, one and all. Most of all, I want to thank my coaches, my teammates for their acceptance, cooperation, and dedication to the purple and gold. They made participating in sports a great pleasure and have provided many great memories that I will cherish forever. This evening in particular would not have happened without them. I was a 3-year letterman in football, 2 years in hockey, 1 in baseball. My senior year was the first year that the Walls fielded a high school baseball team. I played outfield and first base. Was not a starter, but did manage to get off the bench a few times. We won the Iron Range Conference Championship and made it to the state tournament. We did not do very well, but we did make it. I went up for the hockey team as a freshman. I practiced with the team, but did not dress for games. We did not have a junior varsity team at that time, and I played recreation hockey, and also I played for a team that Buck Riley had put together. It was called the Yankees, and it was a team like it would be now, I imagine, a bantam age group. When I wasn't skating with the Broncos, I was with them, that bunch. At season's end, the team went to the Evelyn, the district tournament. I was invited along, but did not dress again. Instead, I performed gopher duties for my teammates and the coaches. We lost in the championship game to Hibby, 2-0. I did not play hockey my sophomore year. After the football season, our basketball coach, Tom Bergstead, who coached the backs in football, talked me into playing basketball. He said it would help me in my ball handling, quickness, and footwork for hockey. I went out for the team and gave it a good try, but just couldn't get into it. The real problem was that I missed the hockey rink and the camaraderie and the atmosphere. As season's end, I quit and went back to the rink. My recreation team was playing in the finals, and they asked me to play for them. I did, and we won, and it really felt good to get back on the ice. My junior year, I went back out for the varsity and made the team. I played left wing along the side of Jock Cronkite, a center and member of the Hall. And I understand Jock has passed away in the last 2 weeks. If we could just take half a minute or so to give honor for Jock. May his soul and souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. And David Kincaid was on the right wing. We went 10-5 that year. We won the District 27 title. But we lost at the Duluth Central in the regional finals 4-3 in the 3-period overtime. We never got to the state tournament, which was our ultimate goal. My senior year was Coach Ross's first year. I played left wing along with Dave Frank at center, Oscar Malley at right wing, another Hall member. We ended the year with a 16-6 record and won the District 27 title again. We all got excited and figured this was our year to finally make the state tournament and welcome Coach Ross for the state tournament berth. That did not happen. We ended up losing to Evelyn in the regional championship. We were bridesmaids once again, and I never made it to the state tournament as a player. I went as a fan, but never as that's why I always, a lot of you guys that made it. Appreciate your efforts. I went out for football in the fall of 51 and played for Coach Pashka. I played quarterback and defensive back. I also was a starting quarterback on defense also for the junior varsity team. I didn't make the traveling squad, but was able to impress the coaches with my defensive play and our daily scrimmages and my overall play for the varsity, junior varsity. Coach did rest me for our last 2 games of the season, against Ely and against Anoka in the Pumpkin Bowl. I didn't get into the games, but I was there. My sophomore year was Coach Larson's first year. I made the team and was a starter at defensive back and backed up Ron Peterson at quarterback. I was also the starting quarterback again for the junior varsity. I lettered and got all pumped up for our junior year. I started the first 2 games at fullback and defensive back. We lost both games, and Coach decided to tweak his team. I was one of the tweaks, and I started at quarterback against Greenway Coleraine. We were leading 13-0 going into the 4th quarter. Coach sent Jim Crotty into the game with a pass play. I completed a long pass to Jim for a touchdown that sealed the game at 20-0. Our next game was against Grand Rapids. The score was 13-13 going into the 4th quarter. I completed a pass to Al Tureen for a touchdown, and Paul Stormo made the extra point. We led 20-13. The rest of the game, our defense was able to hold Grand Rapids out, and we won the game 20-13. We went undefeated the rest of the way and ended the season at 6-2. We won the Iron Range Conference title. I was named to the 2nd team All-Conference. My senior year, I was elected captain. I led the team to the Iron Range Conference Championship and the mythical Minnesota State Championship. I ended my career with a 14-0 starting record as a quarterback. I made the Iron Range All-Conference team as a unanimous choice and was chosen to play in the annual North-South Minnesota All-Star High School football game in the fall of 55. I was named the starting quarterback and played the entire game in a losing cause, which really hurt because that was the first loss I ever experienced as a high school starting quarterback. I received scholarship offers from the University of Minnesota, Wisconsin, St. John's, and North Dakota. After the North-South High School game, I decided to accept the University of Minnesota offer and enroll. Freshmen were not eligible to play that year, and I was redshirted my sophomore year. In the spring of '57, after the spring ball, I decided to leave the U as the quarterbacks from the '56 team were all returning, and our starter, Bob Cox, had made All-American that year. I felt there was no way to break into the lineup anytime soon, so I decided to join the Marine Corps and planned to come back to the U when I got discharged. While I was in the Corps, I went out to the Camp Lejeune football team. I made the team and played 2 seasons. After I was discharged, I didn't go back. I decided to go back to school and get my degree. I enrolled at St. John's during the winter semester in 1960, so that I'd be eligible to play in the fall of '60. I started at quarterback and safety. We had a 3-3-1 season, and I made 2nd team All-Conference. In the fall of '61, I was elected co-captain of the team and started at quarterback and safety. I led the team to a 6-2 record. We were beaten in the final game of the season by UMD for the MIAC title, 12-6. I was named to the All-MIAC Conference as first team and was chosen as the most valuable player in the MIAC. After graduation, I was hoping against hope to get an offer to try out for the pros. I had visions of joining Frank Uso, Jim Crotty, and Bronco Nagurski in the pros. I did get feelers from the Vikings, Green Bay, and Winnipeg of the Canadian League, but that's all it ended up being were feelers. So I decided to enter the real world and find myself a real job. I'd like to take a minute or two to introduce to you the pride and joy of my life, my beautiful wife Rainey, of 54 years, the rest of the clan that was able to make it. Grandchildren here today. One is in Minneapolis playing hockey for the elite team from North Dakota. I have one, they're all hockey players, football players, and baseball. One basketball player, my granddaughter. And I have, I'm bragging a little bit here, and I have 3 grandchildren in Oregon and 4 great-grandchildren in Oregon that couldn't make it. Thank you, Lisa. I would like to close with this statement. Once a Bronco, always a Bronco. Thank you all very much. May God bless you, keep you in the palms of His hand. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Jim. Our next inductee tonight is Charles Kaczynski. Well, I have a question to ask all of you. Have you ever tried to throw a discus? Well, if you've never tried to throw the discus, it's not very easy. And there's a reason why there's only about 6 hands that went up. First, think about the spin. About a turn and a half, really quick. Stay inside that little circle and don't fall out of it, okay? And then think about hanging on to that discus that, well, I think Charles' hands are a little bit bigger than my little hands, but think about trying to hang on to that. Next, think about the release. Go take a plate out of the kitchen cupboard tomorrow. Head out into the backyard. Spin 1.5 times, hanging on to this discus, and then see if you can make that thing float on the air. I thought we could go on with the finer points, and I'm sure there's a certain coach that probably could come up here. Coach Bruce Schmidt probably could come up and give us the finer points, but I think we can say that Charles was a pretty good discus thrower with those 2 state titles. Here's what is written on Charles's plaque. Charles Kaczynski was born March 27, 1953 in International Falls. During his time at Falls High School, Charles was a 9-time letter winner, 3 times each in football, basketball, and track and field. Charles played both offense and defensive end and was the place kicker for the football team. He was named All Iron Range Conference honorable mention his senior football season. Kaczynski was captain of the basketball team for 3 seasons, and he once collected 25 rebounds in a game. Charles excelled in track and field, and especially in the shot put and discus. During his sophomore season, Kaczynski took first place in the shot put and discus at the District 27 meet, second in the discus at the IRC meet, and third in the discus at the Region 7 meet. Charles's junior year would bring more success as he was undefeated in the discus, winning the IRC, District 27, Region 7, and state championship. Kaczynski added first place in the shot put at the District 27 meet and second at the Region 7 meet. His senior year, Charles repeated as champion in the discus at all levels and set records at the IRC meet and the Region 7 meet. Kaczynski also added shot put titles at the District 27 level, IRC, and Region 7 meets. After high school, Charles attended St. Cloud State University on a football scholarship. During his freshman season, Kaczynski broke his collarbone and decided to return to International Falls to attend Rainy River Community College. For 2 seasons, he participated for the Voyagers in both basketball and track and field. During his time at RRCC, Charles qualified for the National Track and Field meet in the discus and placed 16th. After RRCC, Kaczynski went on to live in Louisiana, Texas, and Alaska, and has enjoyed the outdoor activities each of these places has to offer. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Kaczynski.
Thank you very much for you people coming here and seeing all these people here and the efforts that have been put together for this evening and through our athletic scholarships and our athletic travels. I couldn't have done it without you guys, without you folks, and the families that are here, my family and our family. The camaraderie is just overabundant. To make it through your activities, you have to have a lot of backup. You have to have the coaches. And the coaches are the ones that make the big impression. The coaches are the ones that, when you are kind of at a standstill, so to speak, those coaches, through my experience, they were there. They were the Jim Larsons, the Rolandos, and the Ostruts. Those guys, they were there. And for us to venture on and keep doing what we're doing, we had to have that support. And without those support, it was a very easy task, because they knew how to handle it. And most of all, the families, my family, my wife, and everybody that is here tonight, I feel very, very, very honored to have this award. Talked about throwing the discus, throwing the plate, and it's really amazing. It's really amazing how far it went out there, but I couldn't have done it without the coaches standing off on the wayside, so to speak. And the most important coach that I've ever had is right here in front of me. I just want you to put your hands together and stand back. It's just amazing to see all you folks through our relationships and our activities. It's just amazing to see, and me having the honor of being accepted into this Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Our next inductee tonight is Dick Ostrud. All over the years, due to my sports addiction, I've had the honor of being the MC at many of the team season end banquets. Back in about the mid-2000s, I was emceeing the boys' track and field banquet at the Elks. As I started my welcome speech, I said something to the effect of, "Good evening and welcome to the boys' track banquet." A little later in the evening, Dick Ostrud got up to present the Dick Ostrud Award. And before he started, he asked if he could make a correction to the welcome speech. And he reminded me that, "Tim, it's not just track, it's track and field." Well said, Dick. Since that evening over 10 years ago, every time, and I mean every time, I talk about track and field, and I feel the urge just to say track, there's a little Dick Ostrud in my head that reminds me of the words that I'm supposed to say. Dick, I have never forgotten, and I never will. Thank you. Here's what is written on Dick Ostrud's plaque. Richard Dick Ostrud was born March 22nd, 1940 in Virginia, Minnesota. Dick attended Hibbing High School, where he lettered 3 times in track and field and 3 times in cross country before his graduation in 1958. After high school, Ostrud attended Hibbing Junior College, where he participated in track and field for 2 years. Dick then transferred to St. Cloud State, where he earned his degree with a major in English and a minor in biology in 1963. Ostrud's first teaching job was in Canby, Minnesota, where he stayed for 5 years. Dick was head track and field coach for 4 seasons and started the school's cross-country program in 1965, serving as head coach for 4 years, and was an assistant coach for wrestling for 3 years. In 1968, Ostrud moved to International Falls and was assistant wrestling coach for 8 seasons and the head coach for 4 more seasons, with several entries into the state 8. Dick was assistant track and field coach for 4 seasons prior to taking the head coaching position for the next 22 seasons until his retirement in 1994. During that time, the Falls won 5 region section titles and was runner-up 6 times. The Broncos would win 10 Iron Range Conference championships and 11 consecutive sub-region championships. The Falls would add the first 6 section true team championships from 1989 to 1994. While Ostrud was head coach, the Falls had 2 individual state champions, and Ostrud was named the MSHS CA State Track and Field Coach of the Year for Class AA in 1991. After his retirement from teaching, Dick served as an assistant cross-country coach for Hibbing. He's also been a registered wrestling official and a registered starter for many cross-country and track meets across the state. Ostrud was a committee member for getting the Freeze Your Gizzard Blizzard run started here in the Falls in 1980, and he has completed many 5Ks, 10Ks, and marathons over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Ostrud.
Thank you. Thanks for the offer of help. I can get up here myself. You saw Jim Glowak get up here all by himself. And he's 2 years older than I. But you know one thing, as we get older, guys like Jim and I were reaching the threshold of maturity. Mark Twain has this to say about that. With the maturity we've reached, we also achieve a license to prattle on in senile rapture. So get some coffee, make yourself comfortable. I'm at the microphone. It's sort of like teaching school. I've got a captive audience. Nobody leaves without my permission. Except I noticed my 3 great-grandchildren bailed out. I think the prime purpose in accepting these awards, we want to thank the people who supported us. Certainly nobody was more important in my career as an educator and a coach than my former wife, the mother of our 3 children. The song says, she was the wind beneath my wings. That's a good way to put it. You remember Moni, we came to town the spring 1968. Canby, where I was teaching, had a week off, Easter vacation. We came up to interview with John O. Colstead for his job in High Falls. We met him in Old Falls High, went over to see the new high school where I would teach for 26 years. Things looked good. We decided to take a ride around and look at the town that might be our new home. First stop, got to go to the most famous gas station in northern Minnesota. Bronco Nagurski's. Was it a pure oil station? Pure? Yeah, pure oil. Station on the corner there. And you young people, listen to this. The boss used to come out and pump the gas. Here came the Bronco. We started talking. He found out that I was interviewing for a teaching job. He put out his hand to shake hands, wish me luck. Look at my hand. I was in despair of ever seeing it again. That big neck took hold of me, but he wished me all the luck in the world. We set off, we headed east on our journey. The next stop, we saw a very rustic, neat liquor store out in Rainier. Let's stop, celebrate what we thought was our good fortune. Butch Lassard behind the bar. The same conversation ensues. We shake hands. Butch wishes us all the luck in the world. There you got it. Two legends in their time. They were on our side. We were off and running to International Falls. My children went to Holler School. That was better, not just an institution, that was a family. That was a great place. They learned how to read, how to do all the academic skills, quite a bit about fighting in the playground, and other survival skills. Unfortunately, the Holler is a casualty of the shrinking enrollment and no longer with us. My wife became Moni in the morning. Later, author of Novice Nest Keeping, if you remember, in the Daily Journal, when it was a Daily Journal. Went on to be an ambassador for International Falls in the Chamber of Commerce. Our three children, participated in sports, particularly track and field. My first love, the boys were wrestlers. My daughter was a majorette. Do they still have the majorette program in Falls High? I don't even know. I thought maybe that was another casualty. There have been a few. And I became the road runner on KGH radio. I worked with Stan Johnson and Rod Max for 4 years, inherited a very, very successful track and field program. Teamed up with Stan Hendrickson, who I saw earlier today. For 8 years I was assistant wrestling coach, took over the head job for a few years. We got pretty good. Bear Holler, another legend in his time. Some of you remember John the Bear Holler, took over the head job. It's the late, great Bear Holler. I think he'd be a good addition as an athlete, perhaps to this Hall of Fame, and a representative of wrestling. Track and field. Tim alluded to team victories and so forth, and it is track and field. Tim introduced that one year. As I remember, there were 6 or 7 athletes from Falls going to the state meet. He talked about all of them going to the state track meet. 6 of the 7 were in field events. So Tim received an education. A few weeks ago, I was watching an indoor track and field meet, the Southeast Conference College Championship. You know, Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, Florida, Florida State, the big guns. The coach from, I think it was the Florida Gators, University of Florida, I have to lift this up to see it. He said this about his coaching staff. We trust and believe in each other, and our athletes know they can trust and believe in their coaches and each other. When I heard that, I thought, this was us. This was our staff in track and field. We had Punky Statham, the women's coach at first. Stuart Nordquist took the program. Those were good years, Stuart. Punky. Paul Jelly took the program from that time on. He bowed out, now he's back coaching the boys. Then the big three. I had Bruce Schmidt, Dan Zika, Ray Wood. They really should be up here at the podium with me, but sit still, guys. I don't want to share the spotlight. Smitty took over the weight events for probably the best throwing coach in the state, Stan Johnson. Wouldn't you agree, Charlie? You know, I got to tell a story about Charlie and Stan. Ronnie Nagurski had the school record in the discus, 172 feet 6 inches. Very good throw. Charlie wanted it. He wanted to get the record the same place Ronnie had set it, at the old Hibbing Field, across from Cheever Stadium. So we went down there, Charlie's senior year. I think probably Charlie's second throw in the finals, Stan had told him, Charlie, I'm going to go out and stand right at 173 feet. He did. The discus came out. If Stan had not moved, he wouldn't be here today. I thought that his eyes were like that, Stan. That discus landed right where he'd been standing. Stan looked at me and said, I wish I would have gone out to 200 feet. Remember that? I might be embellishing it a bit, not very darn much. It's about the way it came down. Anyway, Stan, maybe the best throwing coach in the state. Well, you got a rival. He's right back there, Bruce Schmidt. Bruce came, took over. He knew I was missing Stan Johnson. Within, a few years, Bruce Schmidt was right up to that level of excellence. How many state champions, men and women, have you had? Schmidt, do you know? Three. Three, he knows. I thought maybe you lost count. How many entries into the state meet?
Too many to remember.
Too many to remember, yeah. Then we got Dan Zika. Dan might be starting his 40th year coaching track and field. Trivia question. Has any other Falls High School coach coached for 40 years in International Falls? I doubt it. I think you got the school record, Dan. Falls has always had throwers and jumpers. Dan Zika, Bruce Schmidt. The sport is track and field. We also had a few kids that could run straight, turn left at the corner, and do it fast. That was my job. Ray Wood. Ray Wood came to the Falls in the early 70s, established the greatest feeder program in maybe high school track and field, the old holler track meet. How many of you young fellas and girls participated in the holler track meet? Yeah, for the hands I see way in the back. I think they call it the International Falls Elementary Track Meet now. Too bad. The holler school was a casualty, but the track and field meet certainly was not. I think maybe my greatest day coaching track and field, I mentioned it on the radio this morning. One year at the National Sports Center, I was down there after my retirement from the Falls, but I encountered 7 former boys that I had coached that were there as coaches of entries to the state track meet. 3 of them are here tonight. One was my son Tom, coaching at Princeton High School. One was Darren Puller, I'm looking right at him, coaching at Hibbing High School. I see the third one. O'Gordo Rich McBride, coaching at Railroad High School. Three more Bronco former athletes, one from Canby, all with entries in the state meet. That's a legacy. I want to mention also with wrestling, my assistant coach, George Frake, who's in attendance. George, a former region finalist in his first year of wrestling. Later came on as a junior high coach, took over the program. He and Paul Tessier very ably ran the program. One year they had 4 entries in the state wrestling tournament. A short time later, the wrestling program again became a casualty of shrinking enrollment. I applaud Mike Holden for his efforts, with the Bronco Mustangs, but keep it up, Mike. I don't think he's here, but tell him about it if you see him. One more individual I gotta mention. It can be Minnesota, where I started coaching on Highway 75. Close to the southwestern corner of the state, about 21 miles up the road, Madison, Minnesota. When I first started, there was a coach that had a nice program up at Madison. Jim Roberts was his name. Years later, 1974, he takes on the job as superintendent of schools in International Falls. 3 years later, we have our first meet on what you'd call a state-of-the-art track and field facility. Coincidence? I don't think so. Also, he had 3 sons, all of whom were region champions and participated well in the state meet. That was nice, too. Yeah. Thanks, Bonnie and Jim. A word about that track. I've seen better. The University of Indiana has a bigger grandstand than their track and field facility. The track and field facility is for simply track and field. That's no better than what we've got out there. We're going out to Eugene, Oregon this spring. We're going to see the D1 NCAA at Hayward Field. That's probably a little better facility, a little better than Nye Falls. I don't know of any others. I don't think there's a better track and field facility in the state of Minnesota. If there is, I haven't seen it. Usually they're surrounding a football field, something like that. Soccer field, lacrosse field, of all things. Ours is a track and field. Well, I may have reached the end of my speech. Oh, I got one anecdote. When the guy, Vern Wilkins was his name, back in '76, was lining the track out here by the high school, he said to me, "Why am I here?" I said, "Why? What are you talking about?" "My last job," he said, "was at Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. I lined Duke's track." He says, "This might be a better track." Yeah, I mean, that's how good it is. Well, I've quoted a few people tonight in closing. I've quoted the University of Florida track coach. I kind of quoted Bronco Nagurski. I didn't quote Stan Johnson, but I threw his name out there. I want to end my speech by quoting Jim Amadon. Several years ago, Jim Amadon was inducted to the Hall of Fame. He addressed the committee. He said, "Do I deserve it? Hell yes. What took you so long? Thank you, everybody.
You do understand, Mr. Oster, now I get rebuttal time, right? Our final inductee tonight is the 1961-62 Bronco hockey team. One of the great things about being involved with the Hall of Fame is that I get to meet so many interesting people who have so many connections. And I do want to thank everybody for your kind words tonight as I've made my way around. It means a lot to me. This is a passion, and it's very important to me. One of the connections I got to make this season is with Bernie Woods and his daughter Molly. She made me aware of a video clip played during the 2018 State Hockey Boys Tournament about the history of the tournament that is going to turn 75 years old next year. And not only did she make me aware of this, but she went out and got me a copy of the video. And so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to play a little bit about that because it references the 1962 team in great detail. So I edited it the best that I could, and I'd like to share that with you right now.
Banquets sponsored by the St. Paul JCs, like this 1962 clip featuring a Hall of Fame face, Coach Larry Ross of International Falls. These were the teams playing in the 1962 state tournament. From that same tournament, we found what appears to be the first tournament color highlights of a game between Edina Morningside and South St. Paul. We covered some classic interviews with tournament coaches making predictions.
Well, it's only natural that we get the favorite role. Having won the tournament a year ago, and then having perhaps the best record coming into the tournament. When you get down here, you all had a chance, but right now it looks like the way they talking will be the ball, and probably Johnson is probably the favorite. As far as he can get a favorite, I think you have to say the ball is strong. Rose, of course, is always strong.
And seeing Larry Ross, the 1962 team that they talked about from International Falls went undefeated, won state championships. Keith Huff, Alfred Christensen, Lefty Kern, and the rest of those guys, they were an unbelievable team. Big, fast, strong. They beat us in the semifinals. The winner of that game would go to the state because Section 7 had two teams that year, and they just ran us into the ice in the Virginia Miners Memorial.
We've also found film of annual hockey banquets sponsored.
And I'm sure more of that will be available during the state hockey tournament next year. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I will call each individual up to accept a framed certificate, a history of Bronco hockey book that was written by Stuart Nordquist, and a plaque if they are receiving one. First, I'd like to mention the cheerleaders. We have a couple in attendance tonight, sitting in the back. Katie Valentine. And I'm not sure how I should introduce her, but I'm going to introduce her by Mrs. Huffer because that's what's on her hockey jersey. Eddie Christensen, thank you. First, team members that are not here tonight with us, Bob Harchie, and also assistant coach Kevin Kennedy. So what we'll do here is as those guys are introduced, as I introduce your name, we'll ask you to come across and we'll ask you to gather in this area, pick up your things, and then we'll ask people to come forward. If you want to take pictures with the group up here all together, we'll take some time and then we'll go with the induction speeches, if that's all right with everybody. So first, Jim Amadon. Jimmy Amadon has never been in the corner, was the comment as he went by. Jimmy, go ahead and go right through that. Puffer Christensen. Lefty Curran. Wes Eklund. Dick Hoglin. Chuck Catola. Randy Lehman. Don Millette. Accepting on behalf of Bob O'Leary, his brother Mike. Larry Roach. Gary Sartain. Accepting on behalf of Jim Thompson, his grandsons, Tristan and Torrin. Brady Woods. Accepting on behalf of head coach Larry Ross, son Steve. And the guys who will be giving the speeches here after we get done with all the pictures, Glenn Blummer. And last but not least, Matt Donahue. If you would like to come up and take pictures once we get the guys assembled, if you... Speakers give speeches. Mr. Donahue, are you ready, Matt? Okay. So our first speaker will be Matt Donahue, and then he will be followed by Glenn Blummer.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Really nice to follow those old guys, boy. I feel young now. I thought I'd lay in the weeds for them, you know, but there you go. Thank everybody for coming and taking a moment of time to share this with us and cover a lot of territory. It's amazing the amount of talent in a town like this. You know, planning and executing an event such as this requires a tremendous amount of time and energy. One of the main people responsible for putting this all together over the years been named Tim Ringhoffer. He didn't want to wear his jersey, he says too hot. Tim is responsible also for these jerseys. How did that happen, huh? I asked Tim to give me some prices on these jerseys for Amnon Blummer and myself in my lineup. I thought that'd be kind of nice. Tim said, yeah, I can do that. And so he called me back in a couple days. He said, you sitting down? I said, I'm sitting down. He said, quoted me a number, and I said, I just want to buy 3 jerseys, not the company. I don't want to buy the company. He laughed and leaned back a little bit, and it's Tim's usual casual.
The more you buy, the better the deal you get. Tim just knew I was just a sucker for a deal. All right, well, look around. You know what happened? And this thing kind of kept evolving. And I said, nope, we're going to stop before we go to the teachers. That's it. Anyway, but the man wins again. I started calling Tim the man, so we thought we'd like to show our appreciation with the 62 jersey. The man is a term that I picked up with my sales firm. It was always meant to say about the man is the guy who gets the job done. And he sure as hell does that. I got a call from Lefty about the induction into the Hall of Fame. Hey, didn't you do some motivational speaking after you retired, Donahue? And I said, yeah, I did. I did that, Lefty, and his comment, we'd like to have you as a speaker. But Lefty didn't tell me he'd gone through 13 other guys on his team. I would enjoy that, Lefty, but it's been 20 or 30 years since I've given a speech, and I'm really rusty. But I think about it for a couple days, and I'll call you back, Lefty. So I called Lefty back for a couple days, and I said, I think I'd really enjoy doing that, but I want to pick the subject. The subject that I chose was Larry Ross. We got all these people and all these things happening, all these teams, and it always goes back to Coach Ross. He's no longer with us, but he's very much the reason for a tremendous amount of success in this group of people. And I'm sure everybody would do that. I'm sitting over there kind of trying to go through this speech for the 2,641 times, and my wife has redone this all that time too. And I'm sitting over there, and I look across the room, and I see Coach Ross sitting right over there. Damn, he looks like the old man, doesn't he? Stand up! So because of that success, we presented him a coach, says Coach Ross on the back. For Stevie Ross. Listen. I've always been told that the best speech is a short speech. That was told to me by a Catholic minister. Also, sorry, thank you. You know, professional speaking taught me a lot about people. Young people are looking around, they're 15, 18, 20 years old. They're looking around to emulate somebody. They want to follow somebody. Something I always thought, we had 5 kids in our family. And, I've always noticed, and I used to have a sales force of a substantial amount of people, and we hired young people who were going to college. I was always amazed that not too many of them want to look at their mom or dad and emulate them. I don't know why. But it's probably because you came home and bitched about your job when you're having supper. You know, and it didn't look real good. My old man said, you never want to be a farmer. But it's so funny how many take the big turn, come on back home, and do emulate their parents. But I'm sure that we talk about the people that people want to emulate, and I'm sure that Larry Ross was a leader in the hockey world. I bet you a tremendous amount of people wanted to be a little Larry Ross. Who was Coach Ross? 1954, he strolled in International Falls and launched his career of 31 years. Long time to be coaching. He coached 1,000 hockey games. I don't know whether I could go to 1,000. That's a good job, wasn't it? He won 750 of those games. 3 out of 4 times you had some coach sitting across the aisle shaking like hell because he knew a 75% chance he was going to get his butt kicked that night, you know. He holds 7 Minnesota state championships. 7. This is all done in the 60s. This man left footprints in the sands of time. And I wrote that and I thought about it. I said, hell no. That's footprints in the snow in International Falls. I asked him what it was like to coach 15 to 18-year-old kids. And of course, people who have children know that you're the wisest at the age of 16, right? You know, just in time to get that driver's license. But that's what we always thought. At that time of our lives, they had these 15 to 18-year-old guys, had raging hormones. They were thinking about smoking and even doing a little drinking. And the good-looking young ladies in International Falls were just absolutely driving him crazy. His response was, that's like herding butterflies. You got to keep them going all the same direction. In Coach's career, he entered into a partnership with a guy named Roberts out of Roseland to develop the Rob Ross Apartments. Anybody living in town knows it right across the street. Barry called me and said, heard you've been in the real estate business for a while, Donnie. It's a little while. He said, I need some assistance and I'm looking for a consultant. Could you come up here and work with me? Said I'd be honored. So I started a little work job. Larry turned out to be a super landlord. And I know that because that's what I did. One of the things over the next 18 months is when we started working on the buildings. I really got to know him over that 18 months because I got a lot of private time with him. Things I could ask questions that nobody would ever ask in normal life, and I would ask him. As a great amount of time. As a coach, he was a very, very humble man. He really was. You spend time with somebody and you really get to see the inside. Often talking about things that he could have done better. And I told him he could have played me more. You know? the mistakes that he made. You know, and he did, I mean, he came right out and said, I blew this, I blew that, I blew this, you know, something like that. But it was a great appreciation for a guy that was humbled with that kind of a record. After inspections and affiliations, we were at the buildings. We went out to have lunch and an inspiration out at the lake. The following information came out of that inspiration. Everybody's trying to laugh. They think I'm coming up with something dirty. No, I'm not going to. Following, I was able to pick his brain, to sit and ask a guy questions that just unbelievable. The main question that I asked him was, what does it take to rack up a record like that? And then he said the 3 Ds, and none of them are Donahue. Thanks, Coach. So the direction, drive, and dedication. After our practice sessions, save the clapping, I'm in a hurry too. Okay. After our practice sessions, Coach would check around, we'd get done practicing, get in his car, and he'd walk or drive around the town, and he'd go to the rinks that were around this town. It was about, I said 11 once, and somebody said no, it was 5 and 6, but anyway, it was a lot of them. He'd go around there and work with the young coaches that had teams playing there. And then, of course, the people down at the band shop. Those people lived there. They ought to have a deed to that piece of property. No, but anyway, all of this running around late at night, they didn't turn the lights up till 9 o'clock. 25 below zero weather. Well, by God, if that ain't dedication, I don't know what is, you know. And I remember that his wife used to bring his lunch down so he could take it with him when he was doing it. Coach had a KISS policy. Now, people have heard about different KISS policies. And, you know, I'm not going to tell any jokes about this. Anyway, but it was keep it simple, stupid. Stay in position, and you'll win a lot of games. And it really was true. He also had the ABCs of coaching. Praise in public, correct in privacy. Small difference in the way that you do things makes a tremendous difference in your results. Proof is, for hockey players, did you ever hit a damn pipe? You were that close to success or failure. Motivating tip that he had that used to always drive me crazy, I think some of the guys too, is he would walk up to you before we're going back on the ice, and he'd put his arm around your neck, pull you right within and look you right smack in the eyes and say, gonna get me a goal tonight, Donahue? What am I gonna say, no? You gotta be kidding. But it's absolutely crazy after I thought about this, and I put this into this speech. I remember the times, and you had to go by him to get on the ice. And he looked at you again. Yeah. Another one that I picked up on Larry was perception and awareness, and knowing what was happening around him. Now think about this. You got crazy kids out there trying to play hockey. Everybody's mad as hell, you know. We're off against you, you know. Hopper got mad every time we were the first line, which was most of the time. He got other things that he did, but we just had fun. Coach drove Lefty around on Friday nights to discuss strategy, which Lefty didn't know was to keep Lefty out of trouble on Friday. So he'd be able to play hockey on Saturday. Things he picked up in games, picked up in practices, picked up in inner fights. People used to say we were a mean team on the ice. You should have come to some of our practices. But an awareness is something that you sort of have an innate ability and you just can't pick it out of the sky. But I remember once, just one time, if you ever got an invitation to go back on the ice with Ross by yourself or with two other guys, it sure as hell didn't look like it was going to be fun. But I remember this one in particular. We were about second game into the season, our senior year, and Larry says, "Hey, Jimmy, bring your boys back to the ice." And I just wonder what the hell Jimmy did that got us in trouble. But we go back up there, and he says, leaning on the net, and he says, "Get on over here, guys." Came over here, and he said, "I'm going to tell you something simple. First thing, you ain't scoring." "Really, Coach? We didn't notice that, you know." He said, "I'm going to tell you solve the problem." He said, "This is the net. That's a face-up. That's another face-up. And you guys, if you draw lines, you get a triangle. So this is what we're going to do. You guys are passing too much. That's the reason we're not getting the goals. So if I catch you in the triangle, and you got the puck, and you don't shoot, think about coming back to the box." Think about that. But anyway, God knows, we started scoring next week, you know. If I told all the stories up here that I've heard from people over the time and the time I spent with the coach, we'd be here for another week, and everybody's running out of time now. But I'd have to tell you that the bottom line is he taught us how to win. He really taught us how to win, didn't he? And no matter where you go, what you do, you want to win. And so that's how important that is. And it's very hard to teach people. I had a sales pitch. I had a sales company, a couple of hundred boys. And tough to take people out there and teach them how to win that. At this point in our lives, we also go to a few funerals. And I don't know about you guys, but I've gone to a few funerals lately. I started asking myself what I should have done with this person a little more. What I should have said to him. Things like that. I came up with coulda, shoulda, and woulda. And it's the worst damn excuse you could ever come up with. So I added one more item to the bucket list. When I personally meet these individuals, and I don't care whether it's on the farm, here, people in this room, all these people support all these guys, and all these stories you hear up here would never be here without the support system. It's like having a race car and no pit stop. Those people have helped me succeed in life. People ask me what it was like to play with guys like Puffer and Lefty. I mentioned a couple girls in town too, but anyway, but I'm just going to tell you what I tell you about. I tell people like that over the years that I've been out there, it's been a fantastic privilege to play hockey with this great group of hockey players. Let's just give them a big hand. Now I'm going to pass this on to Glenn, the program, and I want you to have everybody understand that this is my last pass to Glenn. Here's Glenn. Go ahead, Glenn.
Well, he didn't say I was the only one most games. First of all, the team certainly wants to congratulate the other inductees, Jim, Dick, Charlie, and Peter. It's really an honor. We feel it's well-deserved for those folks. I also want to mention a couple players that we depended on a lot, or an integral part of our team, as all of these people were, and that's Bob O'Leary, who was an outstanding hockey player. Didn't probably get the credit, but we played with him and knew that he had an incredible amount of talent. And another guy that had what I would call the magic stick, because every time it touched him, it seemed the puck was in the net, especially with Huffer passing to him. I think Huffer would agree with me. And that's Jimmy Thompson. So I'd like to just give a round of applause to those people. I'm hoping I can do this in 9 minutes, depending on how many times I stumble. I tell people that out in Idaho I speak 2 languages, Northern Minnesota and broken English, so bear with me. Good evening. We grew up playing hockey in a simpler time, on frozen ponds, ditches, backyard rinks, lakes, and rivers. We used old skates, horse apples, or a ball of old wrap taped for pucks. The ice was cleared with homemade plows or scrapers and shovel. We couldn't afford shin pads, and our legs bear the scars to prove it. Choppers and stocking hats were the uniform of the day. Pickup games of all ages were where we learned to love the game. You learned to keep your head up when you had to shove the puck in 2 inches of snow. We walked to the rink, and we were lucky not to have our parents watching every move. It was hockey at its purest, outside in the elements, and certainly the most fun. I have to clarify something. When we played, the Pee-wees that were labeled Pee-wees were really Bantams. So I'm going to use the term Pee-wees, but it really means Bantams. In 1957, the Pee-wees were in a big out-of-town tourney in Warwick. This was the only out-of-town tourney, so it was a big deal. We had rumors about the big city all-star teams like Minneapolis Shot Pond and Duluth Glen Avon, that we were composed of the best players in their area. We were starstruck, and we were beaten 10-2. From that came an awakening and a challenge, and I think we said, never again. And somewhere along the line, we discovered the game was a lot more fun when you won. The seeds of our 1962 championship really began in 1961, when we had the best team in the state, but took a tough loss in the region final. Once again, I think we said, and we meant it this time, never again. I want to quote something Herb Brooks once said when asked of all his awards and accolades about what was his biggest thrill, and I quote, "I can honestly say the biggest was winning the Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament," unquote. That became our goal. We were successful because of 3 basic traits. The first, we were hugely competitive. A belief that we had the 2 best lines in the state, Jim's line and Hupper's line, battling each practice and scrimmage to decide who would win the day, playing for the bragging rights until the next practice. Lefty, the best goalie in the state and the most competitive. It was best to be on his side during practice scrimmages to avoid flying goal sticks when he was scored on. We had tremendous confidence in him and all our teammates. Jimmy said it was a good thing when Lefty started wearing a mask in practice, because then he didn't have to listen to him talk. Coach Ross rotated lines to start games, so we did not have a number 1 line. Looking back, it was a strategy that assured a continued competition. All the players on this team were capable of competing. Our practices were no place for the meek. The second thing we had in abundance was individual skill. I personally did not realize the level of the skill our teammates had until I got to college and played at the Division I level in the WCHA. Without going through personal awards and accolades for each player, suffice to say, most of the 1962 team had the talent to play at the next level during this era. The third, of course, would never have been successful without a total commitment to our goal. After the loss in region in 1961, most of the players returned in 1962. There was a laser focus on the goal. Each game was one step on the road to the tourney. It is a profound to be honored by those you hold important. And the people of International Falls were and always will be important to us. Playing for the Broncos and wearing that jersey is a young boy's dream come true. Being a part of a team is a great experience, but being part of a championship team makes it 10 times better. 27 victories, 1 tie, 0 losses. This team dominated the range. We beat the North Dakota champion Central and the 1961 Minnesota State champion Roseau during the regular season on back-to-back nights. During the holiday tourney, we played a Minneapolis team with a record of 10-0. A lot of hype coming in, and we beat them 10-1. We won the Region 7 tournament, 26 goals for, 4 against. We won 3 games at the state, 4-0, 3-2, 4-0. 5 players made the all-tourney team. We accomplished our goal. Dedication, discipline, hard work, and determination came together. We have many crazy, wonderful memories of our championship season. Logging, we cut wood to pay for the blazers that none of us could afford if we hadn't done that. Matt, missing an open net, ask him about it. Jimmy getting upset with me for blood that splashed on him when I cut the goalie with a high shot. A practice with Lefty chasing Slapjohn around the rink after Bobby had blasted a high slap shot by his face. A big defenseman trying to check Huffer as he snuck below his check. Larry Roach shaking, trying to get into his breezers. They didn't dress a second goalie in those days. For the final 2.5 minutes in the region final, after Lefty was hit in the face, and we carried him out. Moldy skating style with elbows and knees flying. Bobby John assuring Lefty, not to worry about a certain opponent, crowing about him being the one that hit him. Quote, it will be taken care of, unquote. Tomps getting helped off the ice in the semis and coming back for the final with bruised ribs. He could hardly skate, but he lasted. And lastly, Lefty stacking his pads to stop 2 breakaways in the final against my old friends Roseau. And the euphoric feeling of accomplishment at the whistle. The list goes on and on for each player who has his own bucket of memories. It is so great to be a part of this experience and honor. We want to thank the town and the people of International Falls for their support. The big thanks to the Falls Rec Department, Bill and Aldo, for what they did and the work they put in for us kids. We want to thank the Hall of Fame group for believing in us and recognizing what an accomplishment those many years ago. I've been told by a Falls hockey legend, Tim Sheehy, our team helped set the tone for the younger generation by creating a winning expectation in the program. We also want to thank some of the many key people that helped us on our journey. It would be impossible to list them all, but folks like Hyle Pike, Jim Turry, and especially our assistant coach, Kevin Kennedy, who spent many hours at our practices helping with details without getting much recognition. We also recognize Don Carey, the radio announcer, who braved the winter roads to bring the games home to the fans. And the cheerleaders and the Dirty Dozen deserve special recognition as an integral part of this championship. I've had folks come up to me and proclaim they never want to hear that song again. Of course, Diana was a song played after every goal. There was nothing like, as the Lefty alluded to before, there was nothing like the sound of them playing as we skated onto the ice. What an infusion of adrenaline as it drove the fire to another level. Growing old is a blessing, but not necessarily easy. After this recognition, we stand a little taller and will bear an enhanced look of pride when we think about our past. For that, we are grateful to you. Napoleon once said, "Fame is fleeting, but obscurity is forever." Yes, we are happy with our few moments of fame, and the memories have made obscurity so much easier. Thank you for honoring this team. When you look at these players, you can be assured these old guys would love to lace them up in the bodies we used to have for one game more in a Bronco jersey. For now, we live in the memories of our love for the game, our teammates, and the 1962 team of champions. Thank you for your honor.